if we get into a fiscal crunch where we basically cannot meet requirements, and the energy sector is suffering hugely, we have doom so in this country.
Oh yeah.
No Ghanaian wants doom so. We saw what happened previously.
Yeah.
So we are part of the problem and we are part of the solution too. So do not treat us like some remove people where you have to concoct a story and come and tell us, oh, this is an extraordinary IMF. Our IMF arrangement is different from the other IMFs. Yeah. No. When you do that, you are taking us for fools. You are thinking that we are not intelligent enough. We cannot read for ourselves and we are not educated enough. But that's contrary to the reality on the ground. So in all fairness, the crux of our conversation today is that no matter which political party you belong to, this is Ghana's project. This is Ghana that's at the crossroads. It depends on us, all of us. But do not treat us as second-class citizens who have to be told stories.
Yep.
Sometimes very far-fetched stories. Almost like people who do not know their left from right. Yeah, about what's happening. And just cook something and come and... You don't need sophistry to be able to communicate these things to us so that we can all be on board. Don't tell the people their lives will be better under the IMF program when you know it's not going to happen. Yeah. When have we been better?
Yeah.
You tell us in this state, when have we ever been better? Because they'll insist on some things that you may not be able to deliver. Yeah. For example, you're talking about the job rationalization and the other things involved in that. They will demand that unlike your ability to just recruit anybody anyhow, merely because you want to fix them into the system, unlike your promises you make to young people that we will get 100,000 of you will get a job today, 200,000 will get this job tomorrow, you will not be able to do that. Your money cannot sustain those ones today. Yeah. So why should you think that they should let you do that? They will run country with you. You'll be getting the support, but you'll not get the support to do the things that are frivolous. Tell the people to fasten their belts, that this country will head in a better direction, and that we are going to go through some tough time. That is why you need to tell
another thing, honestly, that I think must happen. The president must address this country.
I agree.
The president must do a national address. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he's a leader of the ship. The ship has almost sunk. I was going to say sinking, but it's almost submerged now, this ship. And yet, we haven't heard from the captain of the ship. We haven't. To be very frank, what we are going through right now, it is the biggest, deepest economic crisis of our generation. Mm-hmm. What we are going through right now is the deepest, most serious economic crisis of our generation. Complicated and made worse and aggravated by COVID and the Russian-Ukraine war. There's no doubt about it. Now, in time of crisis, that's where leaders really lead. In time of crisis, that's where leaders really lead. And they don't lead by hiding. Mm-hmm. The leaders, in time of crisis and in time of war. Yesterday, I spoke to the defense minister, and these were his words, that we are at war without fighting.
That's true.
And asking what war? He says the war that we're currently facing is a war of the economic crisis that has hit the globe, that has hit us. He's right. But when you are at war, that's where the leaders must lead. The leader must lead from the front and not by hiding. We've seen a flyer of the vice president going to speak at some event on the 14th or so. From what I understand, this event, he had agreed to it way before we went to that. That's fine. But from those who work for him, he's still going to take an opportunity to speak to the issues. Mm-hmm. I must admit, humbly, that this is not a time for the vice president.
That's true.
Although he wants to be president, this is not the time. We need to hear from the president himself.
Like he did during the COVID times.
Like he did during COVID. Look, this crisis, COVID lives were at stake. This crisis, even more lives are at stake.
That's true.
You see, COVID,
we are pushing into poverty.
COVID, we could count how many people are dying, how many people are on the ward, how many people, we could count that, and so you could see it, you could feel it. Yeah. When you're in an economic crisis, it's difficult to count how many people are dying because of the crisis.
It may not be direct.
Yes.
They won't come to you.
Exactly.
People cannot find food.
They won't go to the hospital and say
that I cannot find food to eat.
Yes.
And they end up dying in the hospital.
Yes.
It's not going to happen anyway.
So, Mr. President, if you found the need, and rightly so, to address us during COVID, one crisis. Now you have multiplicity of crises all happening at the same time. You have a confluence of crisis. Everything else melting pot. A convergence of things that are happening, making your people's life more difficult. Because I go back to the early 2000s under Kufuor. One of the first things Kufuor did, I remember very well, was to address this country. In fact, as a young man growing up then, I mean, I've just started journalism, my first introduction to the phrase tightening our belt was because of Kufuor.
That's true.
Right? He went out on the national television, did a national address, and told us, look, we are in crisis, and we need to tighten our belts. Fuel price was going to go up. We're in similar times. Mr. President he cannot hide. Honestly, the president can't hide. In fact, he sat in cabinet, directed the finance minister, he got his information minister to issue a statement. Now it's time for him to face it. He should know. Look, he's
the general of this army.
He's the general, and your troops are at war.
Very demoralized.
Your citizens are dying. This, and I insist, this current what we are facing, it is the biggest crisis of my lifetime, definitely. I don't know about yours, that we'll possibly ever face. We need to see our leader leading from the front. I know it's difficult. I know it is a big humble pie he has to eat. I know he has egg on his face and his government. But in spite of all that, first of all, as I said in the beginning, what we're facing, the political backlash is your own creation. If you had not demonized the IMF and said never again, and said no, almost over our dead bodies, this wouldn't have been an issue, because we would have understood you have a crisis, you have COVID, you have Ukraine, you have other things. We would have understood that. But you created this whole mess. So I see the difficulty in coming and standing in front of the cameras and talking to this. I
told you this was an impossibility.
I see
but now we are there.
I see why it would be difficult for him to stand in front of the camera. I see why the president will. But Mr. President, it is precisely because of moments like this that we vote for president.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah, that's true.
So it is not acceptable that we are where we are and we haven't heard from you yet. We have been told we are going to be hearing from your vice president. In fact, as for the finance minister, he has no choice that he resigns, because he will go before parliament for media review.
That's true. I don't know if he has the moral authority to even go and do that there.
But he will go.
Yeah.
If he stays in office and doesn't do the honorable thing and resign, he will go, because media review is a must, especially in that kind of crisis we are in. So for him, he will go and stand before the people's representative, and he will have to face the music there, right? So we will have a situation by late this year where vice president and the finance minister will both come in front of the cameras.
Yeah.
Right? And that's fine. It is unacceptable that the leader himself, the commander-in-chief of the army, of the Ghana Armed Forces, of the leader of this, the captain of the ship, which is sinking, isn't standing up in front of the camera and speaking to the nation on this.
And you would think that some of these things, of course, he has political experience, considerable political experience, and he will know it. And I agree with you that there are difficulties in doing some of these things. But at the core of this is the fact that you've chosen to lead.
Yeah.
And that as president, listen, when we're going to COVID, not everybody in this country literally liked you.
Yeah.
But even your opponents had cause to say you have shown leadership.
Yeah.
Start from there. Let the people know, because food prices are skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Transportation, you can see it through inflation. In fact, Stephen Hank has been projecting our inflation far higher than we are doing locally. But we can see that things are getting difficult by the day.
Yeah.
And people are living it. You're not the one going to tell them afresh. But they will have hope of a better future if it's coming from the man they want to vote for, telling them that this is where we are. I hope we can get out of this with this and that process we have put in place. The executive president will have to lead the charge.
Yeah.
You have to be the person that will bear it all and tell the people that I took you through these processes and I'm going to make sure I get you out, no matter the consequence in the next election. Or else you might be seen as basically running away from what you have created by yourself.
And that is a narrative you don't want.
You don't want. Because people will then punish you or your political party in the future.
And you know, look, whatever you think of Gabi Asao-Chidako, you have to applaud him. Because when the statement was issued on Friday, I spoke to people in government. Nobody wanted to touch it. Nobody.
He was available to speak to the next day.
He was the first individual associated with government and party to choose a very, very big medium like news file to say, I'm coming to talk about the matter. And he faced the bullet, faced the music. You can disagree with the things he said, right? But he stood in front of the camera, came on to Joy FM, Joy News, and came on News File and spoke to the issue. Have you noticed that immediately he did that? Monday, Sunday into Monday, the floodgates open. Then almost everybody now started, okay, now let's go out there and let's part of the conversation, right? You whatever you say about Gabi, you need to applaud him. And I know Gabi will agree if I say that in time of crisis, that is where we see leaders.
And leadership is shown.
That example that he showed, that example must be shown by the president at this time. And I doubt the president would disagree. That the way he rose to the occasion didn't only lead Ghana, he inspired the whole continent.
In fact, there are others for other parts of the world that were very excited by how you displayed your...
He inspired the whole continent, going to the front of the cameras, using phrase that was quoted all over the world. We don't know how to bring people back to life, but we know how to bring the economy back to life. That is etched. Right? And he inspired us. We applauded him. He led us through that period. Look, I submitted, I did it earlier, that the crisis we are facing now is silently more deadly.
It's very
more deadly. Than,
people are losing livelihoods
than COVID.
People are unable to make ends meet.
If he did that in COVID, he must do it now. And I understand why this is more difficult. Because of his own pronouncement, his pronouncement that is the government's conduct as far as the IMF is concerned.
Not even only in 2016.
Yes.
But also in recent times.
In recent times
when he said all the things about we'll never go there and all of that.
I mean, weeks before they were saying we won't go.
But we are already there.
We understand.
You've taken the bold decision to access to engage them.
I make the point all the time. It's only a fool who doesn't change his mind.
And you've already made the change anyway.
You've already made the change. So now there's nowhere else to hide than lead from the front. I really want to hear from the president tell me that I promised you that I cannot bring people back to life, but I can bring this economy back to life. I know that we have led you down this path, right? I know that difficult times are upon us. And I know I was your leader. I'm the captain of the ship that has taken you here. Yes, there's Ukraine there. You can bring it's okay. Yes, Ukraine that has made us worse. But we know that this has been a difficult time. And I can assure you that so far as I have breath and I'm your leader, I am going to I'm going to walk with you and lead you through these difficult times with the IMF, and we will exit like we exited the last time. And go back to Kufuor and say, we went to HIPIC, we came out. NDC went, I took you out. Because of all these factors I have gone in, I will make sure that we get out of this. I want to hear my president make these pronouncements, but own a little bit of the faults and mismanagement that has led us here. Eat the humble pie in front of us all. Listen, look, we are all human beings. And I always say, one of the things that disarms a journalist, your worst critic, more than anything else, when you sit in front of them and say, listen, I'm sorry.
And, begins to admit all the faults in times past.
I have made some mistakes. We have made some mistakes in the way we've handled this economy. We had made some mistakes. Look, immediately you utter those words,
it changes the conversation.
It completely. It flips it upside down. Because you see, the president is the person who is best placed to do this because he's exiting.
That's true.
He's done. I mean, he's not running again.
Everything now is legacy for him.
Everything is legacy, right? He will be the first president in history to come before a people and say, yes, we made some mistakes, but we are going to get you out of it, right? The points that he will score with that, it will shut up his opposition. But then what it means is that you will galvanize the people who will say, the workers who are on strike, it will calm them. If you hear your president say, I feel your pain, I made mistakes, but I'll get you out, it will calm the situation. It will pour a lot of cold water, and people will be, the tension, this country is as a vehicle, it's overheating. Yesterday, the defense minister was clear to me that he is worried as a defense minister
and
that what is happening
so important
now could destabilize us. And he was asking the workers to say, think about your future generation, that what you're doing now could hurt us. And it's true, it could. But if you
everything is grinding to a halt.
Everything.
We have an economy not doing well. The education system is also in its own
lead from the front. I rest my case.
Now, I have to conclude on this particular point because he has said it all. We cannot continue to be in this period where there is definite silence from the President of the Republic of Ghana. That's dangerous. If he doesn't intervene, the space will be filled. And as is being consistently the case, the space is already being filled. We need action, and hopefully the President will deliver the action. Thank you so much for joining us on today's edition of State of Play.